You just survived one of the most violent weeks of severe weather this country has seen all spring. An EF4 tornado with 170-hour mid-pH winds leveled neighborhoods in Enid, Oklahoma. Softball-sized hail punched through windshields across North Texas. A historic May snowstorm buried Denver under nearly a foot of snow, while it was still technically spring. An enhanced risk for tornadoes hammered Alabama and Mississippi just last night. And now, before the debris is even cleared, before the power is fully restored, before families have had a chance to breathe, the atmosphere is already reloading. Another cold front, another surge of Gulf moisture, another round of severe weather is coming, and this time the heat is getting involved too. This is Sky Alert, and we need to talk right now. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Weather Signal. It is Thursday, May 7th, 2026. This morning I want to walk you through something that is genuinely exhausting to say out loud. Severe weather is coming back again. We just made it through a multi-day outbreak that stretched from Texas to Tennessee, buried Colorado in historic late-season snow, and kept emergency managers working around the clock across the Deep South. And instead of getting a long recovery window, the atmospheric pattern is already setting up the next round. Today's video is going to cover exactly what is coming, when it arrives, which regions are in the crosshairs, and critically, what the next 10 days look like, because this is not just a one-day story. There's a lot to get through, so let's get right into it. Before we look forward, let me make sure everyone understands the full scope of what just happened this week, because context matters when we talk about severe weather returning so quickly to communities that are still recovering. The April 24th through 29th outbreak, which set the stage for everything that followed, was catastrophic for North Texas specifically. According to the National Weather Service Fort Worth office, that 6-day sequence produced 287 reports of hail, wind damage, flooding, and tornadoes. 2 people were killed and at least 11 were injured. There were 226 reports of large hail up to softball size. An EF3 tornado tore through Palo Pinto and Parker counties near Mineral Wells, with winds estimated at 145 millimeters, the strongest tornado in Parker County since April 25, 1990, and the strongest in Palo Pinto County since May 12, 1982. The NWS Fort Worth office alone issued 111 warnings for tornadoes, severe thunderstorms, and flash flooding over those 6 days. The NWS called it the most damaging severe storm sequence in their county warning area since June 8, 2025. Then, this week, added to that total. Tuesday brought widely scattered severe storms from northeast Texas through Arkansas into western Tennessee. Wednesday escalated to an enhanced risk, level 3 out of 5, across Alabama and Mississippi, with tornadoes, winds up to 60 millimeters, and large hail all confirmed. At the same time, Denver was sitting at 32 degrees under a winter storm warning in May, with light snow and fog mixing on roads that were 70 degrees just 2 days earlier. The NWS Denver office confirmed that this storm is likely Denver's biggest snowfall of the entire season, and possibly the largest May snowfall in a decade or two. The Weather Prediction Center specifically noted widespread moderate impacts for the I-25 corridor from Cheyenne through Denver, and major impacts for the Front Range, including Rocky Mountain National Park, with wet heavy snow on fully leafed-out trees causing branch damage and widespread power outages. That is the baseline. That is where affected communities are right now, as they try to recover. And it is exactly the situation we are in as the next atmospheric setup begins to develop. Let me give you some genuinely good news before we get into what is coming next, because there is a real, if short, window of calmer conditions for much of the country over the next 24 to 48 hours. The Storm Prediction Center's outlook for today, Thursday, May 7th, shows only a 5% any severe probability for a limited area. And for Friday, May 8th, severe potential is listed as potential too low, meaning forecasters are fairly confident that widespread severe weather is not expected on Friday. A surface high-pressure system is expected to dominate in the wake of the cold frontal passage that moved through the south over the past 2 days, and that high-pressure ridge is going to provide a brief but meaningful break across the affected regions. For Denver and the Colorado Front Range, the clearing has already begun. After the snowstorm peaked Wednesday, the NWS Denver forecast shows Thursday bouncing back to a high near 65 degrees and sunny skies. By Friday, Denver climbs to 71 degrees. By Saturday, 77 degrees. That is a 45-degree temperature swing in 3 days. While that recovery is genuinely welcome, it also brings a new concern that rapid warm-up combined with melting snow on drought-stressed soils is going to create some localized runoff issues. And leafy trees that were damaged by the wet snow may continue dropping branches for days as they dry out and the structural damage becomes more apparent. For Alabama, Mississippi, and the Tennessee Valley, the communities that took the brunt of Wednesday night's enhanced risk, Thursday and Friday bring a genuine reprieve. Skies are clearing, temperatures are moderating, and the immediate severe weather threat is gone for now. But power restoration crews are going to be working hard, and if you are in an area that lost power, I encourage you to check on neighbors, particularly elderly residents, who may still be struggling with the aftermath. Here's where things start getting complicated again, and where the next chapter of this severe weather story begins to write itself. The Storm Prediction Center's Day 4 to 8 outlook, issued this week, makes something very clear. The atmospheric pattern that has been generating this prolonged severe weather activity is not going away. Mean upper troughing will persist east of the Rockies through the Day 4-8 forecast period. That phrase, mean upper troughing persisting east of the Rockies, is the atmospheric equivalent of leaving the oven on. It means the pattern that creates severe weather is not breaking down. It is simply pausing to reload. Starting Saturday, May 9th, the Storm Prediction Center noted that lee troughing will allow for increasing south and southeasterly low-level flow across the southern plains and the lower Mississippi Valley. What that means in plain terms is that Gulf moisture is going to start returning to the region. Warm, humid air from the Gulf of Mexico will begin streaming back northward across Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Dew points will rise. The atmosphere will moisten. And while Saturday's severe potential remains limited, the Storm Prediction Center specifically noted a lack of stronger forcing for ascent, the moisture return itself is significant because it is building the fuel for what comes next. Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and the surrounding Gulf Coast region should pay attention here. A rainy pattern is already returning to Louisiana during the second half of the week, with the Weather Prediction Center suggesting an additional 1 to 3 inches of rain over the next week, with totals up to 3 inches north of the interstates. A slow-moving frontal boundary over the region is going to generate multiple rounds of rain and storms through the weekend and into early next week. The front stalls, the moisture deepens. The rain keeps coming. If you live in any area that is already saturated from this week's rainfall, you need to be thinking about flooding, not just severe weather, as we move through the weekend. Now let me get to the part that has me paying closest attention this morning. By days 6 and 7 of the Storm Prediction Center's outlook, that puts us at Sunday, May 10th and Monday, May 11th, another cold front is forecast to move east and southeast across much of the United States. As that front impinges on the moist air mass that has been rebuilding across the southern plains and southeast, some severe weather potential is expected to develop. The Storm Prediction Center was careful to note that mid to upper level flow is not forecast to be overly strong during this period, and that medium range model guidance varies quite a bit regarding moisture and cold front timing. That is the language of honest uncertainty. Forecasters are seeing a signal, but they are not yet confident enough to draw hard risk areas on a map this far out. That is actually appropriate, and it is worth explaining why. This is a 5 to 6 day forecast we are talking about. At that range, the atmosphere is inherently less predictable. Small errors in the timing of the front or the position of Gulf moisture can completely change which communities are in the highest risk zone. So when the Storm Prediction Center says predictability too low for some of these days, it does not mean the threat does not exist. It means they cannot yet draw a box around it with confidence. But here's what we do know. Fox Weather confirmed this week that many of the same areas hit hard in late April and early May will be in the renewed threat zone for next week's setup. That includes portions of Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, communities that have already been through multiple rounds of damaging severe weather over the past 2 weeks. The trailing end of the current cold front is expected to stall over or near the Gulf Coast and southeast and interact with warm Gulf moisture early next week, bringing additional showers and thunderstorms across parts of the southern plains and southeast through the weekend and into the start of next week. These are not separate, unrelated storms. This is the same relentless pattern playing out in repeated chapters. Now here is something that has not gotten nearly enough attention this week, and it deserves a real spotlight right now. While everyone has been focused on tornadoes and snowstorms, a significant and potentially dangerous heat event is being forecast to build across the southern plains during the middle of May. And the signals coming from the Climate Prediction Center are striking. For the period of Wednesday, May 13th through Thursday, May 14th, the Climate Prediction Center has posted a moderate risk of extreme heat across northwestern Texas into Oklahoma. Let me put that in perspective. A moderate risk for extreme heat from the Climate Prediction Center is not a routine warm weather event. This is forecasters saying that there is a meaningful probability of temperatures that meet or exceed definitions of dangerous heat for an area. The specific forecast from the CPC mentions the potential for record daily high temperatures across northwestern Texas into western and central Oklahoma and southern Kansas. The hottest areas may see highs in the upper 90s to near 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And the GEFs and ECMWF ensemble model systems, two of the most reliable long-range forecast tools we have, depict at least a 40 to 60% probability of temperatures exceeding the 90th climatological percentile across portions of the central and southern plains during this period. A slight risk of extreme heat extends even further, covering the southern plains into southern Kansas through May 15th, and also encompasses portions of the southwestern United States and the California Central Valley through the same period. This is a broad heat signal affecting a wide swath of the country during the same period when severe weather is also being forecast across parts of the same region. That combination, heat and severe weather simultaneously, is actually not uncommon in May across the plains. Hot air masses destabilize the atmosphere rapidly, especially when they collide with cooler, drier air aloft. So the same ridge of high pressure that is building temperatures to dangerous levels is also helping to create the atmospheric contrast that fuels severe storms along its boundaries. For anyone in northwestern Texas, Oklahoma, and southern Kansas, the mid-month period needs to be on your radar right now, not just for severe weather, but for the heat threat that could develop simultaneously. Outdoor workers, elderly residents, people without air conditioning, this is the combination that sends people to emergency rooms. Heat exhaustion develops faster than people expect, especially when temperatures are climbing rapidly from a period of relatively mild weather. I want to step back and explain something that I think gets lost when we cover individual severe weather events one at a time. This relentless cycle of severe weather returning again and again is not random. It is the product of a specific atmospheric pattern that has locked into place over the country this spring, and understanding it helps explain why the forecast keeps looking the same week after week. The key driver is a persistent upper-level trough positioned east of the Rocky Mountains. Think of this trough as a deep dip in the jet stream, a bucket shape in the atmospheric flow that keeps drawing cold air southward from Canada on one side and warm, moist air northward from the Gulf of Mexico on the other side. Those two air masses are fundamentally incompatible. Cold and dry air does not sit peacefully next to warm and humid air. The boundary between them, the cold front, is where storms fire. And because the trough keeps regenerating, because the jet stream keeps dipping in the same general area, the cold fronts keep coming, the Gulf moisture keeps returning, and the severe weather cycle keeps repeating. The Climate Prediction Center noted that a strong mid-level ridge with a plus 120 meter positive height anomaly is forecast to build over the western United States late in the period. That is the same pattern that is simultaneously baking the southwest and creating the sharp contrast that drives severe weather in the plains. AccuWeather has already forecasted that summer 2026 will bring a volatile mix of heat, severe thunderstorms, and flooding across the United States, with El Niño developing and strengthening through the season. Their senior meteorologist specifically pointed to flash flooding as a major concern for the plains, Mississippi Valley, and Ohio Valley at higher frequency this summer. The July 4th, 2025 Kerr County, Texas flash floods that killed more than 100 people and caused between $18 and $22 billion in economic damage were cited as a sobering reminder of what that kind of flooding can do to communities. What this means for you is straightforward. This is not the last severe weather video you will watch this spring or this summer. The pattern is not breaking down into a quiet, stable summer. The atmosphere is going to keep reloading. And the communities that keep getting hit, parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, need to be building preparedness habits that last through the season, not just for individual storms. Let me close today with specific, actionable guidance organized by what you should be doing right now versus what you need to be thinking about for next week and beyond. For the next 24 to 48 hours, this is your recovery and preparation window. If you lost power this week from either the severe storms in the south or the snowstorm in Colorado, focus on safety first. Do not use generators indoors. Do not run propane heaters inside your home without ventilation. Check on elderly neighbors who may have had medications that require refrigeration compromised by extended outages. If you had tree damage from the wet, heavy snow or storm winds, contact a licensed arborist before trying to remove large branches yourself, particularly branches that are under tension or close to power lines. For this weekend, if you are in Louisiana, Arkansas, or the broader Gulf Coast region, stay weather aware. The frontal boundary stalling over your area is going to keep generating rain and storms through the weekend. Flooding is a real concern in areas that are already saturated from this week's rainfall. Know your local flood-prone roads and have alternate routes in mind. Keep your weather app notifications active for early next week as the next cold front approaches the southern plains and southeast. Start thinking about shelter and preparation now. Do not wait until the forecast firms up to figure out where your safe room is. Do not wait until Sunday night to check whether your weather radio needs new batteries. Make those preparations this week while the weather is calm so that when the storm arrives, you are already ready. For the mid-month heat threat across northwestern Texas and Oklahoma, start preparing now if you live in those areas. Make sure your air conditioning is working properly. Stock extra water. Know the signs of heat exhaustion. heavy sweating, weakness, cold, pale, and clammy skin, a fast or weak pulse, nausea, and fainting. Know the signs of heat stroke, which is a medical emergency. High body temperature above 103 degrees, hot, red, and dry skin, rapid and strong pulse, and loss of consciousness. If you see these signs in someone, call 911 immediately. Do not try to manage heat stroke at home. And for everyone watching Weather Signal, the single most important thing I can tell you heading into the second half of May is this: build a weather routine and stick to it. Check your local forecast every morning. Keep notifications enabled on your phone. Know the difference between a watch and a warning. A watch means conditions are favorable for severe weather to develop. A warning means severe weather has been spotted or confirmed on radar and you need to take action immediately. That distinction saves lives. Too many people do not fully understand it. The atmosphere is reloading. Another front is on the way. Moisture is returning to the southern plains. Heat is building across the central states. And you're now equipped with everything you need to know to be ready for what comes next. Thank you so much for watching Weather Signal. If this video gave you information that matters to you or your community, please take 5 seconds and share it with someone who lives in an affected area. That simple action could make a real difference for someone who might not otherwise see this forecast. Like the video, subscribe to Sky Alert for daily updates as this pattern continues to evolve, and keep your notifications turned on because we will be back the moment this next setup starts to firm up with specific risk areas and timing. Stay informed, stay prepared, and we will see you in the next one.